there we go on that front. Let's get rid of all that. Press some buttons. And we'll start ourselves on our way, I think. Hey, there we go. Right, let's have a quick swig of this. Mostly, right, just moving those away from out of my feet. A few bits and pieces. Firstly, we have a new friend who we'll talk about momentarily. And you can just see the feet of the other new edition, which I will show off once we get the stream properly started. Hello. I was wondering whether Bristol versus Swindon was going to start late, but we will naturally see. Let's just make sure all the things are working. People are slowly starting to weave their way in, which is what we're after. Good stuff, good stuff. Of course, probably be a couple of people down just because people will be in Bristol at the game itself, which of course we're going to try and keep tabs on. I can see the Cats have had a power play. But yeah, keep on answering the warm-up question. Who's getting the fancy present? Who's getting the coal? Let's pop that over there. There we go. Just going to pop the phone there just because we're going to need it for a few notes as we go along. Mike's already answered the warm-up question. The Hispanical gets the coal easily. Bury him in the mine. Deary me. As if it wasn't bad enough that he's effectively sort of on notice having with Forsberg coming in, but we'll certainly have a chat about that one in a few moments, just because I think we should probably get ourselves rocking and rolling. Guys, gals and the gender fluid and all beyond the binary, it is, well, it's Friday because we weren't doing this on Christmas Day. We've all gotten told off by our respective others. But it's Friday, it's 8 PM, and welcome back to the BOTW What's Current stream. My name's Anthony Russell, here to take you through the weird, wonderful and wacky world that is the National Ice Hockey League structure here in Great Britain. We focus on the National Division. That is our bread and butter. That is our home port. But of course, we're here to go through everything from across the National, as well as Division 1 and Division 2 in the north and in the south. Good evening, everybody. Merry Christmas. I hope you had a wonderful day on Wednesday. This is your reminder that today is Friday. I know we are in the in-between space where time and meaning do not mean anything and are replaced by leftovers and Quality Street. But we are still here. Like I say, usually we'd be on a Wednesday evening, but on a Friday for the purposes of the fact that, yeah, trying to do this on Christmas evening, we'd have been binning off all the good TV to talk about hockey, which is a lot of fun. But probably would have gotten, like I say, we would have been all told off by our respective others. So we are here instead, plenty to chat about, which we will get onto. In fact, including some massive news out of the south tonight. But the first thing we need to do, of course, is have a quick chat through and do our little bit of housekeeping as we usually do. Bannersonthewall.wordpress.com, your number one source for all bits and pieces related to the NIHL. And of course, that meant that our Banners on the Road series was back in the NIHL for the last couple of weeks. Last weekend in Slough for the Berkshire Bees and the Peterborough Phantoms. In fact, the only game those two sides got last weekend. We'll get onto that in a bit, and did that as a bit of a quick audio-visual piece from here, where we do this, where we do the What's Current stream as well. It had to be done just to try something out, like I say, from time to time. Also, I was desperately running out of time to get everything sorted in time before Christmas. Wanted to get that piece out before Christmas Day, so thank you very much for kind of bearing with us on that one. But you've got all of this season, including my bits and pieces from inside the commentary box, wherever you may find me. I'm back in the commentary box this coming weekend for the Guildford Flames, which is Guildford versus Manchester again, because for some reason over the last couple of years I've seemed to have commentated on Manchester an awful lot, and you see the subtle changes as we go. But Banners on the Road is our series where I go through in depth all the last couple of games have gone to. So we've had Berkshire Bees versus Peterborough Phantoms. Before that, Solent versus Streatham, which was a fascinating encounter down in South 1, and lots of news out of the Solent Devils, which of course we will be touching on momentarily. But you've got our Hockey Stories series, long form pieces of content for those of you who like a good in-depth interview or like a good in-depth look on a topic, that's there too. And lots of stuff over on the website, bannelsonthewall.wordpress.com, creeping ever closer to the 1000th piece as we head towards our 14th birthday this coming March. And then of course there's all the other fantastic bits. The other bit of housekeeping is we're here on YouTube. I know it's Friday. We're usually on a Wednesday night throughout the NIHL season, 8 PM, here live to go through all the games from all 5 leagues across the NIHL. All of our social media bits and pieces, so our links for Facebook, Twitter, X, whatever we're calling it, Blue Sky, as well as our virtual busking hat at buymeacoffee.com/BOTW. They're all down there in the description. If you're heading down there, make sure to subscribe to the Banners on the Wall YouTube channel. Check out the bits and pieces we've got there. We've got playlists of all the old What's Current streams, our interviews. Like I said, there's game reports, all kinds of crazy things in there. Some interviews with the movers and shakers of British and world hockey. A man instrumental in setting up his own, setting up a brand new university hockey program in America, the first at a historic black college. Steve Dangle we've interviewed Steve Nell, Aaron Nell, Jamie Elsom. We've interviewed all kinds of people, Matty Davies, Richie Hargreaves. There's tons from across the thing. Lots to check out over at the Banners on the Wall YouTube channel. And because I know some of you love to catch up, always fantastic, and we thank you all for doing that. But if you join us live, that means you get the chat. Questions, comments, thoughts, feelings, anything you want to throw in as we have a weird and wonderful winding way through British hockey at the last couple of days. And by all means, do chuck it in the chat. But if you are joining in, please do remember the golden rule here at BOTW, and that is DBAD, don't be a dick, be respectful of other people's thoughts and feelings, and we are all going to have a good time. We need to introduce you to this little fella that my mum found when she was visiting my cousin in Canada. For folk who like their sort of cuddly toys, it's a Jellycat puck. He has little skates, so thanks to my mum for that. So he has now got his place on the shelf next to my signed Antiniemi and Lars Eller pucks there. I'll say this though, because I know a lot of you hockey fans, you like the hockey shelf. We've got our 3D printed signs by 3D Lee. We've got, you know, Summit Series coins, and I've got sort of the Mark Messier figure. I've got signed Johnny Bauer card, signed Oli Colsey card. Got my pucks and bits and pieces. Got my, you know, the Ovi stick. However, I might have outdone myself and bought a present for my wife that is infinitely better than anything on the hockey shelf. So I am going to show you. It's not specifically hockey related, but I do need to show you. Because my wife watched Power Rangers growing up, and she never got this when she was a kid, so I got her a Dragon Zord. And I'll tell you something, this is heavy duty. Like there's proper metal in this. So those of you who are like my age and like such things, by all means, you can all sit back and enjoy that. The other thing though that I will show you that doesn't fit on camera, but it is there, is that I do have the Oli Colsey, trying to get it into the light without the lights reflecting on it. There we go. Dear me, that's awful. But there is the McFarlane Oli Colsey figure. Now I've had this for a while. This isn't new, but I just wanted to. If I was showing the Dragon Zord, I've got to show Godzilla on stream as well. You need the Dragon Dagger. So gee, here's the thing, right? Is that I looked for the Dragon Dagger for my wife because I thought, firstly, infinitely cool. The Dragon Dagger, it turns out, in Power Ranger folklore, Power Ranger fan lore, is one of the most sought after things in Power Ranger fandom. And it is mind-bogglingly expensive. This is not the original Dragon Zord. They re-released the original Megazord and the Dragon Zord back in like 2013-14 and kind of did them in this sort of way. So not like an action figure play thing. They do click together, but it more kind of the sort of like awesome statue to have in your house kind of job. Yeah, that's a thing. But yeah, there's all the wonderful stuff. The other thing I did get, which was in my stocking, was I did get desktop hockey, which is pretty awesome. I won't get it all out, but it comes with a little stick, a little puck, and little pads little goalie pads that you can put on your fingers, which is pretty awesome. That is sitting up there at the moment, currently next door to my Nicholas Backstrom thing. I had the White Ranger sword. Alas, it was sacrificed to the parents' boot sale curve up. Some of those original toys would now, having looked, Some of the originals, especially in the box, are mental prices, absolutely mental prices. But I did look for the Dragon Dagger. Maybe that's something. Maybe that's something for the 20th wedding anniversary for the wife. I've been married now for 14 years, so 6 years down the track, maybe instead of taking her on like the Orient Express or a big trip, I'll just buy her a Dragon Dagger. Or like an original Power Morpher or something. Just having a look there, because of course we stuck in the warm-up question in the chat. Who gets the fantasy present? Who gets the coal? Whichever Hull fan who talked to Matty Davies during Matty Davies' interview gets the coal. Ha ha. Leishman gets the fantasy present. His quick build of a team is holding his own. It's incredible. We all know how great a player he is. We're not recovering from concussion. And the coal for Hull's Phillips for it. I mean, Davy Phillips didn't go headhunting, so maybe that's a little harsh now. Do we all get a cookie cutter for watching? This is from Mike, who copied a few of us into that because the Buffalo Sabres on their horrific losing run. For the at the moment, giving out cookie cutters at their next game, which, to be fair, I kind of want. I like weird stuff when it comes to hockey. What's G said here? Sobchuk gets the coal because he's already gifted the fancy present of an opening weekend doubleheader against Bristol Pitbulls, who are yet to turn up in the league. Hashtag padded stats. I mean, that's Bristol's fault for not turning up more than Sobchuk's fault for scoring lots of points. And let's face it, Sobchuk's still pretty good. You know, if you is still top of the goal, still top of the point scoring chart. So we need to we have to kind of take that one in its stride. But we do we like us just having a quick squiz there, just because we're looking at the news, just in case there's anything else. I can't see. Just having a check as to whether we've had any goals. No goals at the moment that I'm aware of in Bristol. So still 0-0 between the Pitbulls and the Wildcats in the Battle of the Southwest. But we do need to talk about some news, not out of the National, but out of South 1 in the immediacy this evening, because, and for folk who are interested, it is going to be the week after the Coventry weekend. It's going to be Saturday, the 26th of April, 5 PM down at the Gosport Ice Arena. And the Solent Devils, who've been around now for quite some time, and obviously Solent and Gosport before it, but it's going to be the testimonial and the jersey retirement of Christian Chico Cole. Now, for folk, if you're not aware, maybe you live up in the north, or maybe you followed a lot of the old EPL, Christian Cole, Chico as he's better known, certainly in sort of South 1 and South 2, is without a question statistically one of the best I believe, and I've had this conversation with Joe Scutts before, statistically he's the best netminder in the history of the third tier of British hockey. Like a career save percentage in the 90s. Don't know what his career GAA is, I can't remember from off that conversation. But basically, Christian Cole, who spent pretty much his entire career in Gosport, played half a season on the Isle of Wight with Jeremy Cornish in the Isle of Wight Raiders, but for the rest of it has been nailed down in Gosport, which is his hometown, and he becomes the first ever Solent Devils player to have his jersey retired, which is pretty impressive stuff. Not just for the fact he wore number 1, but he is going to be number 1 forever for Solent. And for anybody who ever watched Chico play, I mean, Gosport, as we've talked about a lot before, quite a small rink, lots of shots do get let off, but Chico was a man possessed, whether he was at home or away. You sometimes can have that conversation with clubs about why they're retiring this jersey. I don't quite understand that one. I think that obviously, from a Basingstoke perspective, there was a little bit of that conversation when Alex Metham's jersey was retired at the last Bison game. But in the last couple of months, of course, we've had Paul Dixon's jersey retired in Guildford. Absolute no-brainer of a discussion, and a no-brainer of a discussion this one here for the Solent Devils. So just to quickly read their PR. The Solent Devils would like to welcome you all to Planet Ice Gosport to celebrate the career of British goaltender Christian Chico Cole. Chico's career was one for the British hockey history books, and we couldn't be prouder that he chose us as the place to spend the majority of his career. We are happy to finally announce a special testimonial game which will see new and old faces come together for Chico's final game. After the game, the Solent Devils will be officially retiring the first jersey number for the club in Chico's number 1, cementing his prestigious legacy with the club forever. More details regarding tickets and some of the faces who may make an appearance will be coming soon. We hope to see you all in April, and the hashtag there is Forever1. I mean, Alex Murray is a very, very savvy gentleman, having had the opportunity to have a few chats with him about bits and pieces, but this one is an absolute no-brainer. I think there's a discussion to maybe be had for Murray himself which is, given how heavily involved he is in the running of things at Gosport. There's a conversation to be had as to what you do with 73 for Alex when his time eventually comes and he stops playing. But if you're going to... when I think about the Isle of Wight closing and Steve Galloway never getting his jersey retired on the island, for us sort of in this bit of the south, Chico had to be done sort of quickly. Maybe there's a discussion about Mark Pitts, about Jamie Fitzpatrick, but in terms of the first guy for Solent, Chico's an absolute nailed on first choice, more than deserves to have his jersey retired. The one thing I'm really, really hopeful about is that they will find a way to have something on the wall in Gosport for that, not just a number that's not used, and you have this sort of odd situation like at Swindon where they're not allowed to put banners up. I really, really hope that somewhere the Planet Ice have kind of gotten on board for putting something on the wall for Chico, because he brought people into that building. Like, the amount of money that Chico sort of generated by just being one of the best netminders at that level for so long, I think is massively, it's a massive credit to him. Great player, on his day, absolutely untouchable. And congratulations to him on a fantastic legacy left for hockey in Gosport at that sort of South One level. There are not many better to have done it at that level. So congratulations to Chico. And so what we now need to do, of course, is we do need to have a look at the other bits and pieces going on. He says quickly flicking through, because obviously we've got to keep an eye on the scores and bits and pieces elsewhere. Nothing in the immediacy that I can see. Although, a bit of news, tomorrow night in Milton Keynes is a sellout. They are officially sold out tomorrow night's game against, I believe it's Peterborough off the top of my head. So the advice from the Milton Keynes Lightning, do not travel without a ticket. And also, of course, the usual bits and pieces. Be aware of people, scammers and stuff trying to sell tickets. The Mike's stuck there in the chat, having had a quick look. Since 2012-13, Chico had just 2 seasons under 90% saves. One at .899 and one at .887. And Chico played a lot of hockey. So, and he played a lot of hockey from a young age. So a fantastic testament to the fact that that's where his level was. Either way, we need to have a quick flick through last weekend in the National Division. Of course, we've got a game going on right now, still 0-0 at Cribbs Causeway between the Bristol Pitbulls and the Swindon Wildcats. But we'll flick our way back to last weekend, and we will start up in Dumfries, and another big win for the Sharks on their quest to make the playoffs for the first time. 3-0 up in this one, and let Hull back in because it's Hull, and Hull will always find a way to score goals. But a huge win for Martin Grubb's side, and as you can see there off the back of this one, 4 wins in 5. Pretty decent work there from the Sharks all in all. Scott Henderson, Kel Beattie and Nolan Gardner, because it's always Nolan Gardner with the goals for the Sharks. Goals for the Seahawks coming from Bobby Chamberlain and Josh Hodgkinson. And then, probably the big game of Saturday evening in the division, and the Swindon Wildcats come out of Milton Keynes with a win, and another one to leave folk scratching their head. And not just that, a short-handed overtime winning goal from Ryan Wells to put Swindon over the line in this one and take the extra point. From the highlights, it looked an absolute barn burner of a game, and then at the end, just a mistake in the last moment, and Swindon nick the points. Harry Gulliver, Martin Susters and Ed Naggs for the Lightning, Glenn Billing, Jake Bricknell and Chris Jones with the goals in regulation. As we say, Wells with the overtime winner. I can see everybody's favourite Andrew Day has popped into the chat. 0-0 at Cribbs Causeway at the end of the first period. And if the previous game on Saturday was tight, this game gave rise to the old BOTW adage, and join in if you know the words. Why defend when you can not defend? 10-6. 80s throwback night in Sheffield. Everybody loses their damn minds, and the goalkeepers are just throwing their kit in the dustbin, apparently for the most part. Another crazy one. I mean, someone in the chat talked about Owen Sobchuk padding the stats. I mean, Sam Tremblay feels like he pads his stats on a pretty regular basis. But pretty pretty nuts. This one, another bad night at the office for all netminders, if we're 100% honest with ourselves. But another loss for Telford, whose recent run of form has not been great. Obviously, Henderson, obviously the two new imports came in, and they kind of got a bit of a jump in terms of things. And then Thompson went down injured, and it's just not quite worked as well for Telford since that point. And they're slowly starting to lose ground again, and they lose ground here on Solway on a night where the Sharks win and the Tigers lose. Romford, though, since making the cup final, have had a pretty torrid time of it. Maybe mental fatigue, maybe just a bit of tired legs. But either way, the Bristol Pitbulls pick up a pretty important win at home as they look to try and claw their way back into the playoff contention. 6-3 win for Barry Mackenzie's side. In this one, the coach himself actually getting on the board. He was joined on the score sheet by 2 goals from Bailey Harewood, as well as goals from Mason Lipsey, Reece Cochrane and Ewan Hill. 2 from Sean Miller and 1 from Adam Layshram for the Raiders in this one. And then the game I was at last Saturday evening, and the Berkshire Bees break their duck. They, after losing 5 on the spin, a pretty comprehensive win against the Peterborough Phantoms. The Phantoms were flat in this one. The Bees were just with bodies back. Had a bit of energy in the lineup. Josh Martin back on the ice for them after being suspended for the better half of the first half of the season after the end of last year. Jacob Branson now in the lineup playing on D. Marcus Mitchell back in the lineup, although he didn't take as many shifts as he could have. He's still recovering from an injury he's had. But ultimately for this one, it's a bit of a, like I say, this was a bit of a strange game from the Phantoms. I was really interested to see Hayden Levine with my own eyes. And he dropped everything that went near his glove, and he just never looked like he got comfortable. The Phantoms they looked like they got sort of stuck in second or third gear. A quiet night from Ferrara, a quiet night from Lackinen, quiet night from Salem, quiet night from the sort of the top end guys. The third goal there is for Peterborough, Jasper Foster from Louis Kynaston. I really liked what Kynaston did in this game, and I know I try to, we all try to trumpet the good play of the youngsters here. Genuinely looks like he's starting to kick on. Really, really pleased that he is. Obviously, the loss of Will Weldon for Peterborough has left a bit of a hole down the middle for them. If Kynaston can really press on and develop as a young centre, that's going to be a really big thing for the Phantoms. But in this game, the rest of it just didn't really work for them. The Bees, deserved winners in this one. 2 worldy goals as well from Dom Gibai when you get a chance to check the highlights on this one, as well as goals from Will Stead, Adam Ross-Bottom and Marcel Balash. Alongside that, Jasper Foster goals from Austin Mitchell-King and Cam Huff. Another one where he scored on the power play. He didn't do much else for the remainder of the game when he needed one. These 2 sides, of course, were meant to meet on Sunday evening, and that game was postponed. The Ice at Planet Ice Peterborough failing the late test. The game called off with only 40 minutes to go before opening face-off. A few cross people in a variety of places. Peterborough have, of course, announced that your games can be transferred to any other game, refunded, or you can attend the made-up game when it happens. Into Sunday then, and Bristol, well, they couldn't do the double over Romford. Everybody migrated back to the Sapphire, and the Raiders get the 4-0 shutout win. A big one for Ethan James. Owen Ryder taking the loss on Saturday evening. Ethan James back between the pipes and doing the business for the Raiders here. Brandon Ailiff, Adam Layshram and Sean Miller, 2 goals for Ailiff on the night there. And like I say, a big and needed shutout win for the Raiders, who were starting to slump a little bit as they keep their one eye on what was going on in the Cup semi-final. The Knights, off the back of their Cup semi-final, which we'll talk about in a bit, they decided to slap Hull around. Another bad weekend for Hull as they lose by 7-3 at home against the league champs in this Yorkshire derby. 2 from Embald Smeck and 1 from Johnny Corneal for the Seahawks. Matt Bissonette, Mac Howlett, Jordan Griffin, Matt Barron, Matt Hayward, all on the scoreboard in this one for the Knights. Telford, though, with a very big win on Sunday. Having lost ground to Solway, they beat Solway in Shropshire on Sunday night. A 5-2 win for Tom Watkins' side, and a really important one, like I said, if they're still trying to get into those playoff places. We know that Solway still have games in hand, but you can only beat what's put in front of you. And from a Telford perspective, that tiebreaker against Solway could prove massive come the end of the season. So a 5-2 win is going to be a big one here. 2 goals from Devon Skaleski, as well as goals from Scott McKenzie, James Smith and Adam Harding for the Tigers, Liam Stenton and Nolan Gardner, because it's always Nolan Gardner for the Sharks. And then MK get a measure of revenge down in Swindon. A big win for MK, this from a mentality standpoint, having lost the night before at home. When you think about how much of a fortress the Thunderdome has been over the last couple of years for them, and then to lose that cup semi-final second leg to the Raiders, and then lose on Saturday night in the league in a big game for the Lightning, and they effectively go back to square one when it comes to the Cats on this one. Just a tough game all in all, but a great bit of rebounding from MK to take the split of the weekend by 3 points to 2 over Swindon, and just push themselves that little bit further ahead. Aaron Nell and Glenn Billing for the hosts, Ross Venus, Sean Norris and Max Stewart with the game winner for the Lightning in this one. He says trying not to cough himself to death. So that takes us then to the National Division table. And the MK Lightning, top of the table at Christmas, but the numbers do not bode in their favour. 44 points from 29 games for Tim Wallace's side. The Knights trail them by a point, but have 2 games in hand. And then there's a drop-off there of 5 points to the Swindon Wildcats. They have played a game more than the Knights, but a game less than the Lightning. Sheffield in 4th, followed by Peterborough, Hull, Romford and Solway on the inside looking out. Telford with their win over Solway, the gap drops down to 4 points between them and Martin Grubb's side, but the Sharks still have 3 games in hand. Telford in 9th, Bristol in 10th. The Bees, despite their impressive win, still bottom of the table, 15 points from 28 games. Saturday's win was only their 6th of the season so far. So we go into the fixtures then. That's what's going on tonight. 0-0 at the end of the first period between the Bristol Pitbulls and the Swindon Wildcats. And then we have a look into Saturday, the 28th of December, and some fascinating games. As we've just heard, the MK Lightning and Peterborough Phantoms is sold out at the Thunderdome this coming Saturday. Do not travel if you do not have a ticket. Elsewhere, the Bees take on the Raiders. Can Jacob Ranson get one over on his old employers? Sheffield take on Hull at Ice Sheffield on Saturday evening. Solway take on Leeds, and it's the Battle of the Cats. Swindon take on Telford this coming Saturday. Into Sunday, Peterborough will hope that the ice can hold up as they about face and welcome MK to Breton. Romford and the Bees will also turn around and head to the Sapphire. Telford take on Bristol. Hull will welcome Sheffield for the second time of the weekend, and Leeds and Solway will head out of Scotland and back to Yorkshire for that one. And then, because we will be back next Wednesday evening, we are going to be streaming on the evening of New Year's Day, which means that this game is going to happen before we get there. The second leg of the NIHL Cup semi-final between the Sheffield Steel Dogs and the Leeds Knights. 2-2 in the first leg last week. A fascinating back and forth game that the Steel Dogs tied inside the last few milliseconds. Jono Phillips with the big goal to tie this game up, and everybody heads for the early face-off on New Year's Eve at Ice Sheffield. Can the Knights get over the hump this time? Can they not just get to the final? Can they win the cup? Or will the new era of Sheffield be punctuated with a chance at silverware for the first time of asking under the new stewardship of Tony Smith? So we press some buttons there, and we will come back. As that is the National Division done and dusted. Andrew has chucked the news in the chat there. At the Spengler Cup, of course, my favourite tournament of the year. And Hartse Davos taking the lead. Callie Anderson scoring the goal at 27-47. And Davos, the hosts of the tournament, lead against the Straubing Tigers by 1-0. Been massively loving Spengler so far. I had the opportunity to watch Kierpat versus Freiburg Gotteron this afternoon, which was a fantastic back and forth game that was won by the Swiss side, by Freiburg. Really good game. Team Canada look mental this year. They just absolutely powered past Davos in the evening game yesterday for the first evening game of the tournament. Looks like it's Team Canada's to lose. Fascinated to see how Pardubice do. Pardubice have got a lot of money behind them in the Czech league. As I was talking to Christian of the Rinkside review at Bees versus Phantoms on Saturday, got a great bit of insight into Czech hockey. Do check out Christian's stuff. But Pardubice have got a lot of big money guys in there. Fascinated to see if we end up potentially with the Canada Pardubice game at some stage. But yeah, Straubing have the unenviable task of taking on Canada tomorrow. One of the things I do like about the Spengler is that the teams that play on the first day, if you lose, you play on day two. So you have to. So winning has an incentive because you get a day of rest in the group stages if you win your games, and if not, you have to play again straight away. Which I quite like, the idea that you may not know what's happening going into tomorrow, and if you're the third team, you get the first day off to sit back and watch, but you will end up playing back-to-back days as a result, which is quite I do like the way it's done. If you're not familiar with the Spengler, do go check out the bits and pieces. All the games at the moment are free on the Spengler Cup YouTube channel, so just go check those out. Generally a game in the afternoon, normally about 2 UK time, and the evening games will generally face off around 7:15. If you've got a VPN and you want the authentic experience, you can stick it on Swiss telly, which is what I've been doing. If you can't hack the German commentary, don't worry about it. You get the TSN commentary on the YouTube channel instead. Questions, comments, thoughts, feelings. How do we all feel about bits and pieces of the national division so far? Buying a ticket is a nightmare for Game 2 if a fan... Yes, very, very much so. I can only imagine how crazy that would be, not knowing whether you're going to be buying a ticket or not. However, it's a pretty standing room only event most of the time. Tickets do sell out quite a way in advance, and Davos is not a cheap place. It's a bucket list item for me to go to the Spengler Cup, and as you can imagine, having a 7-year-old child rocking off to Davos in Switzerland in the middle of Christmas is not a thing that is ever going to happen. So we have to live with that one. If somebody would like to pay me to go, that would be fantastic. Thank you very much. Maybe that's for retirement. I'll go to Davos. Take the wife for Christmas to Davos and do that there, and then watch Spengler. I do have a Spengler Cup jersey from 2011. I have a Clopton Flyers jersey with one of my favourite all-time players from World Hockey, Mickey Dupont, on the back. I really should get another one at some stage. Like I say, they're always nicely designed jerseys. Sam Gagne as well, playing for Team Canada this year, which is pretty fun. But yeah, so definitely check out all the Spengler Cup bits and pieces. Really, really fascinating tournament this year. Just having a quick squiz just to see if we have any extra news. You can just see as well from the first period, because Bristol Pitbulls put the stats out. Swindon out shooting Bristol by 19-16 at the end of the first period. So a lot of shots going in both directions there. To start off this one. Also as well, happening at the moment, the World Junior Hockey Championships have started in Canada as well. Pretty big day for the USA. They blew out Germany by 10-4 on day number 1. We'll just quickly pull up the. He says not wanting to accidentally throw away his tab he's got open for the for Bristol versus Swindon, because that's got all the bits and pieces in it. Let's just have a quick look. He says putting up World Juniors. What we need, because wins on day 1 for the USA, for Canada, the Czechia and Sweden. What we do need is we want to, where's it gone? We want to hit full schedule. There we are. So from Boxing Day, World Juniors, we can see Sweden beating Slovakia by 5-2, USA 10, Germany 4, Czechia beating the Swiss by 5-1, and a 4-0 shutout win for Canada against Finland on day 1. So far on day 2, just the one game that's been completed, Slovakia have beaten Switzerland by 2-1. Germany versus Finland should be starting around now, followed by Sweden versus Kazakhstan at 10 PM. Canada take on Latvia for Latvia's first game of the tournament. That game, if you're staying up, is going to face off at midnight tonight. I will not be doing that. But yes, questions, comments, thoughts, feelings on bits and pieces of the National. So the MK Lightning, for all of the perturbations, for all of the complaints, for all of the wondering about all the changes that they maybe need to make, they are top at Christmas. And bar a really, really good weekend for Leeds and a really bad weekend for MK could be leading the table in the National Division by the time we enter 2025. However, as we noted, the numbers aren't necessarily in MK's favour right now. The Knights with games in hand, really, really hot on their tail. It's not maybe been the Knights of domination of old. It's certainly been pretty good at times from MK. Teams have been slipping up a bit more. MK have slipped up, obviously out of the Cup now. Leeds, obviously, in the Cup where they chose to go first and couldn't quite get their way past Sheffield at home, you feel that that there's a massive, massive chance here for Sheffield. But ultimately, Leeds are Leeds, and as we say a lot, the champs are champs for a reason. And they've got Sheffield in a place where they're not miles behind. You think about the Cup final a couple of years ago where they went to they had to take on Peterborough 6-0 down on aggregate. They're a point behind MK with 2 games in hand in the league. Tight, effectively a 0-0 game. They've got 60 minutes to make the Cup final, and then they have to take on a Raiders side that have been spotty in form since making their way into the final. It's there for the Knights to run the table, and they've got that championship calibre to be able to do it. But they have actually got to do it. They've got to get over that mental hump in their head, particularly as well when it comes to the Cup. You can have, and we've talked a lot about it for MK, but it's also true for Leeds. You can have every big name in the book, you can have every big scorer in the book, but can they perform when they need to? The Knights went from a double to only winning 1 trophy last year. MK finally getting over the hump last year and winning the Cup against a Hull side that I think had mentally burnt itself out by the time it got there. We're staring down the barrel now of probably, for the most part, one of those 2 teams winning the league. But everything else is kind of up for grabs, and you think that would Romford rather finish 7th or 8th but win the Cup over finishing 5th and not? 100%. That one's pretty obvious. And as we saw from the playoffs last year, Peterborough finished 6th, looked pretty ordinary through most of the league campaign, rocked up in April and won the last trophy of the year. Apologies to Telford fans for having to mention that. But ultimately, are we going to, we don't want to say the G word, and we're not going to say the G word, because even though I don't believe in luck, I don't want the headache of you lot moaning at me about it. But there is real potential here for one of those 2 sides if the switch turns to just absolutely blow the rest of the competition away. And yeah, it would be great for 3 trophies from 3 different winners, like we had last year. It's great for the league when that happens. Ultimately, I'm starting to lean a bit towards a very, very controversial idea, which is that we bin off the league title and the winners of the playoffs are the champions, and that's it. I'm having some real consideration about writing that up as kind of like an idea in my head, and maybe that should be the 1000th piece on BOTW, the big ticket items that I think we should change in British hockey, which at the moment in my head are, you can have import goalies, but they count as 2 imports. That we do away with the regular season league title and the only champions are the champions of the playoffs. We can keep the Cup. Having the Cup is fine. I think the Cup is a nice diversion. But I think maybe, do we need to have a discussion about getting rid of the regular season champions being the league winners, because other countries do a format similar where you have a really short playoff format and that team is still the champions irrespective. And I think there's a few other bits and pieces maybe I can kind of draw out, but maybe that should be the 1000th piece, rather than me thinking, I need a big interview, I need to speak to some big luminary of hockey, and instead what I do is I just take the crazy ideas in my head and just articulate them really well, and do it that way instead. That could be a lot of fun. Any more news for any more bits and pieces on the National from anybody? Anything anybody want to chat about as Period 2 gets underway in Bristol that we can see? Nothing else immediately leaping out at the moment from a National Division perspective. I mean, pretty interested to see how MK and Peterborough go this weekend, though, I will say. Only because, like I say, MK is such a fascinating watch, and Peterborough, I'm just interested in how Peterborough respond after last weekend. Obviously, big loony of hockey equals planet ice. I mean, there's too many jokes to make there, Mike. But Peterborough and MK are really fascinated to see, because the game in Peterborough being cancelled last weekend was bad for the Bees, because, you know, getting a win, you want to immediately just get back on the ice. But also bad for Peterborough, because Peterborough did not play well on Saturday. Levine had a poor night, and he's a good goalkeeper. You know, we can see from his numbers, and we can see from the stuff he's done. He's not a bad goalie, but he was not good. Like, anything that hit his glove just sprung out of his glove like his netting was made of trampoline material. And sometimes when you have a really bad game like that, the first thing you want to do is to get back on the ice and just try and work that out of your system. Well, that's now been sat for a week, waiting for them to do that, and now they have to go into MK against an MK side that will be frustrated that they only got 3 points out of last weekend and lost at home. So I'm fascinated to see what happens there from both sides, because I don't really, you know, certainly there seems to be a small section of the MK fan base are not happy, despite the fact they're top. They've obviously brought Forsberg in, which is very much a shot across the bow of Spadafor, and it's just hard to. It's really interesting. They're two teams in really, really different places, but both with sort of like a bit of an odd dynamic going into it. And obviously, derby game usually brings with it a lot of tension, a lot of emotion into the thing as well. 120 minutes of those two, potentially 130 if you go all the way through overtime in both games, of those two sides butting heads. A lot on the line for both sides. I think it's the sort of the ones to watch really of the weekend in terms of across the entirety of the NIHL. There is, of course, another game that we will talk about in the NIHL that we do need to mention. And we will move on to the rest of the NIHL, because, of course, there is plenty to talk about. He says, make sure he's clicked all the buttons, because not only do we have the fantastic bits and pieces from Joe Scutts in terms of our box scores. What's happened there? I've not clicked the button. That would have been really helpful, wouldn't it? There we go. But not only do we have the fantastic box scores, we've also got the fantastic sort of top 10, end of sort of first half of the season top 10s. Remember, you can get these box scores, all of the bits and pieces to cover the National Division as well as Division 1 and Division 2 at nihlstats.wordpress.com. The fantastic Joe Scutts has come through once again in a big way. Let's have a quick bash through the results from the last weekend, and starting as we usually do in North 1. And well, Sheffield and Telford decided they could do it, so did Blackburn and Hull. Why defend when you cannot defend? 5 Hull Jets 5, Blackburn Hawks 10. No, let's all pad the stats, and as you can see by the end of it, Jacob Lutwich and Adam Barnes had their 23rd goals of the season respectively. Not a good night for the Jets, who again lose at home, bit of a head scratcher, and a 0-point night on that Saturday for Rhys Edwards, which, given the fact I thought he was playing, wasn't that the night he was playing down in wasn't that the night he was playing for Fife, or was that the night before? Either way, pretty eventful weekend, all things considered, for Rhys Edwards last weekend. 2 goals from Adam Jessica, as well as goals from Nathan Parks, Britton, Richard Hagar, and Ethan Daintiff for the Jets. Goals for the Hawks, 4-goal night for Andy McKinney, as well as 2 goals for Adam Barnes and a goal each for Liam Charnock, Darragh Spaforth, James Royds, and Jacob Lutwich. I don't think anybody wants to read the goalie stat, because that's truly just going to make it painful reading for them. And well, 15 goals in one game, 14 in another. Widnes losing by 10 goals to 4 at home to D-side, and another tough night for the Wild. Another busy one. Jake Witkowski now up to 27 goals in 20 games since returning to British hockey and moving across to North Wales. Goal to the Wild coming from Tomas Vrostek, Michael Gilbert, Andrew Hopkins and Owen Ray, and then 2 goals from Michael Clancy, a hat-trick from Witkowski and a 4-point night for him, as well as goals from James Parsons, Will Harper, Jakob Hayek, Gary Simpson and Jared Dickinson. Again, not a good night in terms of the stats there. Jace Gledhill letting up 4 goals on 17 shots. Logan Reed in net for the Wild, letting up 10 on 46. Defence, help your goalie is the way forward. And while the Dragons got a big win on Saturday, they lose out on Sunday. The champs are the champs for a reason, as the Billingham Stars 4-3 down with 10 minutes to go and come all the way back again. It's like they turned a D-side into Nottingham as they come roaring back. Tommy Spraggan tying the game late Sean Galloway putting Billingham ahead with 5 minutes to play, and an empty netter from Chris Sykes doing the business at the death. Goals in this one for the Dragons from Parsons, Harper, Kennedy and Witkowski, and for the Billingham Stars, 2 goals for Chris Sykes, including that empty netter, 1 for Tommy Spracken, 1 for Sean Galloway, 1 for Roland's Grittans, and 1 for Lucas Dowdall in that one. Matt Croyle, who's had a pretty decent season so far though, 5 goals and 25 shots. Not great. It's not been a good weekend for the netminders in North 1. Solihull, well, they give Nottingham another a battering, unfortunately for the Lions. 11-3 at Hobbsmoat Road on Sunday night as the Barons and top scorer across the league, Nicholas Otterson, just putting the Knights very firmly in their place there. Alex Rushby and 2 from Tyler Somerton, who celebrated his birthday recently, so happy birthday to him. Dan Mulcahy with an 8-point night as he goes 4+4 in this one. 2 goals from Corey Goodison and Nicholas Otterson respectively, and goals from Charlie Webb, Sam Chandler and Alex White. And then Widnes, Widnes conceded a lot of goals and then went absolute gangbusters themselves on Sunday evening against the Sheffield Scimitars. 12-4 for the Wild's third win in regulation of the season. And you sometimes when teams get beaten a lot, you do think to yourself, they're going to have to give somebody a battering at some stage, and very much have so. They've given the Scimitars an absolute kicking. Not exactly a massively short bench either, neither side with tons and tons of skaters, but ultimately just an absolute demolition job, and a big night for Bailey Thompson, son of the Solway Sharks assistant coach Jamie Thompson, one of a few Solway lads on a 2-way contract into Division 1 with the Wild. But yeah, 4 goals from Thompson on this one, and a big night for him, and a hat-trick as well from Andrew Hopkins. Goals as well for the Wild from Ross Chalmers, Michael Gilbert, Damari James, Thomas Roystek and Matt Barlow. The goals for the Shims in this one from Simon Williams, Jack Dransfield, Ben Cutts and Christian Pelling. Pretty tough night all in all, especially for Scarlett Richardson, sent in the third period and lets up 2 goals on 4 shots. Not many games over the upcoming weekend between Christmas and New Year, but certainly a big weekend up in the Northeast. The Northeast Winter Classic, the home and home in the home and home series of games between the Billingham Stars and the Whitley Warriors. They will meet at 5 p.m. on Saturday at the Forum and 5 p.m. on Sunday at Hillheads. The only other game in the division this weekend is at 6 p.m. in Lancashire. Blackburn host the Sheffield Scimitars. Quick look at the league table, and there we can see it's still very much Billingham's to lose. Yes, Blackburn have a game in hand, but the Stars are currently 9 points clear. What we will do though is have a quick look at the top 10s in North 1, he says, having skipped down way too far, because we'll have a quick look then at the points so far. Look at the big sort of hits and highlights, and despite the fact he feels like he scored a bajillion goals this season, it's not Ian Brown at the top of the scorers chart. It's Nicholas Otterson of Solihull, followed very closely by Dan Mulcahy and Jake Witkowski. Of course, Witkowski joining slightly late, but still managing to fight his way into the top 3 of the scorers so far. 67 points from Otterson. He has a 6-point gap over Mulcahy and Witkowski there. Brown, though, does lead the league's top goal scorer, the league's top power play scorer into the bargain. In terms of Otterson, having got a lot of points in assists, 43 of those 67 points coming from assists, leads in power play assists, and leads in and Dan Mulcahy from Solihull leads in power play points as well. In terms of the top scoring defenceman in the league, it's Alex White of Solihull. So even though the Barons are not quite as close to the title as they were last year, they're still doing the damage in the scoring charts. Second place, Tommy Spracken, who is turning a lot of heads in a lot of places. I'd be massively surprised if he is not full-time in the National Division next season. Vlad Volkanovs leads the short-handed goals. He has 5, 3 more than anybody else in the division so far. We'll just skip our way down and get a look at some of the net mining statistics. Unsurprisingly, having had to make lots and lots of saves, Nick Winters of the Sheffield Scimitars leads the saves timing, but only one keeper so far has broken the 1,000-minute barrier, and it's Graham Laverick of the Solihull Barons. Just skipping our way down there. Jacob Hammond from Billingham leads in the wins column, unsurprisingly, given how often Billingham win. and Oliver Thomason of Blackburn is the one leading the way in both save percentage and goals against average. And we can see that Ian Brown, given how many goals he scored, unsurprisingly, has the most game-winning goals into that bargain as well. Some of the team stats then on the last page, and Joe's done one of these for each of the four divisions in one and two. As we can see there, the top Whitley Warriors, despite having had a very up and down season, have the best penalty killing division, which is quite a lot. And if we look at this, 9 short-handed goals scored for the Hull Jets, which is unsurprising given Volkanovs has 5 took by himself. And the Scimitars have let up 8 short-handed goals. And then, personally, one of my favourite stats is always the amount of shots allowed per game. Billingham shoot more than anybody else and let up less shots than anybody else. That's why they're champions, kids. The Leeds Knights are averaging nearly 50 shots a game against them. Paul Norton in net there is what I will say on that front. Spengler Cup end of second there from Andrew, thank you very much. Straubing, Davos still leading by a goal to nil, and we have a goal in Bristol. Jake Bricknell scores for the Swindon Wildcats. They take the lead in Bristol against the Pitbulls as they look to make sure the Southwest stays red. Spraggan only 19, may just stay on a two-way for a few more years yet. I'm going to make you very upset, Jono, and no, I think the time for Tommy Spraggan to step into the national division is now. I think he needs to come up, and I think he needs to come up full-time. He probably should have come up full-time this year, if we're honest, but having a year dominating in North 1, not necessarily the worst thing in the world, but I think for me, this has to be the last year of him being full-time in North 1 in terms of pressing on. I think Spraggan is now at the point where he's too good for the division, and if he wants to test himself fully, it's coming to Sheffield, it's coming to Hull, it's coming to Leeds, moving a tiny bit further south. I realise that Billingham fans won't want to hear that because they love Tommy Spraggan, and justifiably so. But for him to progress to the next level, it's time for him to step away from North 1. It's time for him to have a bigger challenge on the regular, and I think that given the little tidbits we've seen of him sprinkled in with Hull, I think we've seen that he is of the ability to be able to do that. I see no reason why at 19 he needs to be... if he was a netminder, I would potentially see that argument for it. Spraggan's too good now. It's time for him to step up. And I realise that'll make you very sad, and Carol may now be very angry with me. But yeah, it's time for Tommy to make his way into the National Division full-time, in my personal opinion. Into South 1 then, and as we talk about potential players, we'll be looking moving on, especially a young man in goal who does all of our graphics. But a win for the Rumford Buccaneers last Saturday evening, a 5-1 win over the MK Thunder, who now move to 1-21. Jared Vygar, though, I do like Jared Vygar. He's on a two-way with the Guildford Phoenix, of course, does a lot of damage in South 2, and still getting the opportunity in South 1 as well when the Phoenix don't have a game, which given their really wonky schedule, he's had the opportunity to play a lot of South 1 hockey so far. Really pleased he's been able to do so in that front. But a hat-trick from Elliot Dervish and 2 goals from Tom Wilson doing the damage there as the Buccaneers, who've been a bit of a surprise package so far this season, it should be said. Playing 500 hockey, a few people wondered where they'd kind of end up, but they've really managed to turn a few heads this year, and especially as we knock down our friend Max Van Mullen, who, if you don't know, all of our fixture graphics are done by Max, so that's great to see. 31 saves from 32 shots, a pretty good night for him. But also, fair play to Craig Bradfield in the MK Thundernet, 4 goals on 43 shots. Still pretty respectable 39 save performance from him in the MK net. On Saturday then, the big bit of news that was flying around was that the Jets lose in the shootout to the Invicta Dynamos down in Kent. A bit of a surprise result given how up and down Invicta have been and how good Slough have been, particularly on the road. But ultimately, a late equaliser from the Dynamos. The Jets 3-1 to the good at the 41st minute, and then end up losing. Timo Lindgren, Christian Moore and Seb Moore with the goals for the Jets. Tom Saw with 2 goals. Aaron Connolly getting the late equaliser before then scoring the winner himself in the shootout. So there's a 2-on-1 split on the points, but the Dynamos get the extra one, and the Jets now move to 17-1-2. Elsewhere on Saturday evening, Definitely not as close a game at the Ox Pens. The Chieftains absolutely batter the City Stars. Oxford were 1 goal up after the quarter of an hour mark. Alex Tidings getting his 7th of the year before the Chieftains went into overdrive and absolutely powered their way past the City Stars, who have just had a really, really tough year. It's the only way to describe it. A 4-goal night from Ollie Baldock, 2 goals from Matt Lauday, having now moved across from Swindon to join his brother, and 2 goals as well from Cameron Bartlett. Single goal nights for Grant Bartlett, Sasha Maltsev, Halden Barnes-Garner, Sam Russell, and Mikey Power, who had a 7-point night. Did Power 1+6? You could only dream of those numbers when he played in the National Division. And as you can see there, both Ross Miller and Morgan Parsons getting time in net. A pretty tough night for Morgan Parsons coming in that third period. 5 goals on 13 shots. Swindon Wildcats had the pleasure of hosting the Streatham Redhawks. Not quite as big a scoreline, but another comfortable win for Streatham when it came down to it. The Wildcats gave them a bit of a push, but Streatham were 4-0 up by the end of the first period and held the Wildcats at bay. 2 goals from Danny Ingoldsby, 2 from Roman Cathcart, and a goal from George Norcliffe for the champions. Jay Warren breaking the shutout in the third period for Swindon on that front. Brett Shepherd getting the full 60 in net here. 29 saves from him. Ben Clark-Leach getting the majority, and also great to see Brett Massey getting back into the game, playing a brief part of the second period. It says in the second period there. That does feel a bit strange, but either way, great to see Brett back. He's had a massive issues with injury this year, so great to see him back on the ice. Congratulations to him. Sure, also very much appreciated from Ben Clark-Leach, who had a pretty good time over in Germany with the GB under-18s, but probably would like a little bit of a rest. On Sunday, Slough, well, they got revenge on Invicta, winning by 7 goals to 3 against the Dynamos at the Hangar. Just the sort of tonic you need when you've lost a game the night before that you definitely didn't want to lose. Invicta, though, 2-1 up after 18.5 minutes before Slough turn things around. A late goal in the first period from Jack Goodchild, setting them on their way in this one. Goals for the Dynamos then from James Laming, Aaron Connolly and Regan O'Neill. 2 goal nights for Ollie Hemmings-Mayer, Christian Moore and Jack Goodchild. Lewis English with the other marker in that one. Invicta only putting up 21 shots. Brad Windibank turned away 53 on this one. Streatham and Swindon did an about-face and headed to High Road, and the score was exactly the same. It was tied up in this one. Sam Rye's goal cancelling out the goal from Danny Ingoldsby, but ultimately Ryan Watt, Sam Waller, Ziggy Beasley and a second of the night from Ingoldsby would finish off this one there and give a 6-point weekend to the champs, which given the fact that Slough only managed 4 out of the weekend, will put a smile very much on Ben Painter's face. No games between now and New Year in South 1. We'll of course check back in with them ahead of New Year's Day, as the next fixtures in this division are not until the 4th and 5th of January. And in terms of the league table, Slough are still top, but Streatham are very much hot on their heels. They are a point behind with a game in hand. Chelmsford are 4 points back, having played the same number of games as Streatham. Oxford still holding on to that last player spot at the moment, but now the Cardiff Fire have 6 games in hand, but they of course will all be against teams above the City Stars. Having a quick look then at the top 10s from South 1 there. Cam Grant Bartlett with 105 points between the two of them by Christmas, and Mikey Power added into that mix as well. Over 150 points between the 3 of them is pretty impressive things, all things considered. Cam Bartlett as well leading in the goals. Grant Bartlett leading in power play goals. Mikey Power leading in power play assists is pretty impressive. He's had a really productive year, dropping down into South 1. But as you can see, Chelmsford leading on all the big scoring metrics, but 3rd in the table. The top scoring D-man in the division is tied between Harvey Stead of Streatham and Alex Murray of the Solent Devils, with Dylan Dix lurking just behind them. From a net minding perspective, unsurprisingly, given the fact that Paul Brett Massey has been injured, Ben Clark-Leach has had more time on ice than any netminder in the division and any netminder in Division 1 across the geographic divide. Ross Miller, the other netminder, to break the 1,000-minute mark. So far, Miller has also made more saves than anybody else in the division. In terms of a save percentage, Tom Adams has played the minimum of 300 minutes, and he has the top save percentage so far and the top GAA. Matt Smithell has the most wins with 14. Christian Moore, unsurprisingly, given his quality and how he's shown that at national division level as well this season, has the most game-winning goals. Streatham in the top power play in the division, no big surprise there. Solent, though, with the top penalty kill, which is pretty impressive given the fact they've had a few games where they've been blown out, in particular by Slough, who just trailed them in second place. Chelmsford has scored a bajillion goals, which is why they have the top shot percentage. But Streatham still at the top of the save percentage shots, even with those big injuries to Danny Milton. They've used 3 goalies so far this year, Streatham, and a great performance from all of them. As we can see, though, the big one here is the number of shots per game. Streatham averaging 60 shots a game across 60 minutes. They average a shot a minute. MK averaging 57 against them. There's the thing here. Yes, Slough average fewer shots against them, but it's also the Redhawks who are in the driver's seat. Streatham are out shooting teams by the better part of nearly 40 shots a game. That is ridiculous. And one thing the Swindon Wildcats need to practice is their penalty kill. They've let up 9 short-handed goals in the first half of the season. That is more. That's more than Streatham, Solent, Slough, Invicta, Cardiff and Chelmsford combined. Into North 2, and Sutton march on 18-0 for the team that has the advantage in the league standings at the moment in North 2. They win by 12 goals to 4 against the Sharks in the at the world's most versatile arena. As we skip down there, a pretty good night, although a frustrating one if you're Tom Humphries. A 4-goal performance from the Sharks forward, and they still get absolutely blown out of the water, pardon the pun. 4 goals for Morgan Gladsby, a hat-trick for Adam Brooks-Smith, 2 goals for Charlie Saunders, 2 for Ryan Aspley, and a goal for Callum Russell as the Sting march on. Only 14 shots mustered by the Sharks. Lewis King getting removed from the net, having let up 4 goals and 11 shots after 40 minutes. Probably cold and tired by the time that one came around. Elsewhere on Saturday, the Altrincham Aces needed a miracle. They needed to win they managed to run the table, got headed in, knowing they needed to win by 5 clear goals to make the semi-finals of the North 2 Cup and knock out the Coventry Blaze to do so. Heading into the last minute of play, it was 4-1 to the Aces, and they managed to get 2 goals in the space of 8 seconds to do the damage, and the Aces head to the Cup semi-finals. Coventry's Cup campaign comes to an end, and Altrincham sneak in at the death as Josh Milnes and Ronnie Grimes scoring inside the last minute to bring a little bit of a smile to the faces of the Aces faithful. What a result for them. And talk about leaving it late. I know they did joke on their Facebook page that it was never in doubt, but I think a few people would have been worrying a bit there. But either way, it is Altrincham who will head into the Cup semi-final. Reece Howells with a lone goal for the Ducks in this one. Jake Frost with 2 goals, as well as goals for Kane Morin, Josh Milnes, Ronnie Grimes and Billy King. A few lost fingernails in this one by the sounds of it, but ultimately all Coventry could do was sit, watch and wait. They did get a win themselves in league competition. They win by 4 goals to 2 up at the Forum against the Billingham Buccaneers. Billingham 2-0 up by the start of the 37th minute, but Coventry managing to turn it around, letting out their frustrations on their northern neighbours. Ash Lavery and Lucas Dowdle with the goals for the Bucks. A hat-trick from Harrison Sumner and a goal from Ryan James for the Blaze in this one. Sutton marched on to 19-0 so far, one of the only 2 undefeated sides across the NIHL. A 90 win over the Nottingham Lions, NIHL 2 for this one. Nottingham, 5-2, there's an outside chance Probably not against the Sutton side, who just want to absolutely annihilate everybody they come across, it seems, for the most part. Josh Rawsthorne and Adam Clark with the goals in this one for the Lions. Adam Brooks-Smith, Ollie Watson, Joe Colton, Lawson Gladsby, Jacob Truswell, all with goals. Double goal nights for Callum Russell and Charlie Saunders for the Sting, as Lewis King has the night off. Jack Hargreaves doing the honours in this one. Both netminders for the Lions getting in. Joe Nolan concedes 7 goals on 46 shots across 2 and a bit periods for him. Telford, after losing to Sutton, needed a rebound, and they get one. They dispatched the Bradford Bulldogs quite handily on Sunday evening by a score of 9-3. Darius Barthorpe, of course, having starred for Blackburn the night before, back in Bradford colours, back on the score sheet for him as well. He also joined on the score sheet by Lucas Vince and Tyler Hall. Hat-trick on the night for Taylor Stanton. 2 goals from Ben Washburn, as well as goals from Lewis Smith, Stephen Crowe, Paul Davies and Ollie Hunt for the Tigers. No games in this division until the 4th of January, so we'll catch up with them when we next meet. Having a look at the league table, Sutton then, as we can see, 19-0, Telford 15-1. Advantage Sting when it comes to the league title. The Sting have played 3 games more, but they are 12 points to the good. And as we can see there, the confirmation, the Altrincham Aces have made their way into the Laidler Cup knockout stages. Their prize on the 18th and 19th of January is home and home with the Sutton Sting. If they win that one, they're going to spring the shock of a lifetime for everybody. But more power to the Aces for doing it, and congratulations to them. Commiserations to Coventry as well on that front. Heartbreaking when you're in a position where all you can do is watch. Into the top 10s then, in North 2. Ollie Hunt is the top points scorer across the division so far. 42 points from him. His teammate Philip Supper leads in the goal scoring stakes, with Morgan Glasby of Sutton just behind, along with Tom Humphreys of Kingston, both on 20 goals there. Hunt has 24 assists to his name, along with his 18 goals, which keeps him top of the point scoring charts. Lawson Glasby and Ellis Martin leading the power play assists there. And as we can see from the goals, it's Morgan Glasby with 9 leading there. So unsurprisingly, Sutton leading in a lot of the metrics, although 2 short-handed goals each for Ben Greenhalgh, Kai Hathaway and Chris Jones. Top scoring defenceman in the division, Josh Hustwick of Telford is 6 points ahead of Ellis Martin of Kingston. From a netminder perspective, Nottingham's Joe Nolan has made more saves than anybody else, but it's Lewis King who leads the way in the time on ice. He's been pretty much a stalwart so far for Sutton on this massive rampage they've made to 19-0. He also leads in the save percentage and goals against average. That is ridiculous from King, a 1.45 GAA as Sutton sit comfortably at the top of North 2. Looking at the team stats then, as you can imagine, a lot of the good ones are Telford and Sutton, albeit the Coventry Blaze penalty kill better than that of Telford's currently, and Sutton top of the netminding charts as we can see, but also Coventry and Billingham above Telford when it comes to save percentages at the moment. Telford average more shots per game than anybody else. Sutton concede fewer shots. D-side are having a bit of a torrid time, letting up 52.5 shots per game. Sheffield Titans take fewer than anybody else, just averaging 23 shots per 60 minutes. And there was no games last weekend in South 2. There is, however, a huge game coming up this coming Sunday at the Spectrum. The Guildford Phoenix came from behind and sprung a huge shock in Peterborough against Phantoms 2 and stole the extra points and kept their unbeaten record this season. They're the only undefeated team in the South. These two sides will now meet this Sunday at the Spectrum, 29th of December, Guildford versus Peterborough. Huge title implications in South 2. It's going to be huge, especially as well when we can see from a lot of these things, the story of the points at the moment is Connor Pollard, Nathan Pollard, and Nathan Long at the moment. Guildford just are lagging behind just because they've played so few games, all things considered. Well, interesting as well to see Matt Ganas of the Lee Valley Lions dragging himself into the top 10 of goals scored. But it's Pollard 47 points and 22 goals to put himself at the top of at the top of the charts there. Top scoring D-man in the division is Sam Oliver of the Invicta Mustangs, with Nathan Long just 5 points behind, and followed in third place by Jaden Bulkar of the Haringey Huskies. There's a player I think I'll be looking to see whether he can step into South 1 next season. In terms of saves, well, we know that Lee Valley face a lot of shots, and you'll see just how many shots in a minute. But Ethan Frayne has made more saves than anybody else, almost 100 saves more than the next player before him, and has more time on ice than anybody else. In terms of the GA, in terms of save percentage and goals against, it's all towards Peterborough. Luke Clark leading the way in both categories at the moment, and in second place in goals against, Vinny Graziano of Peterborough. Graziano there has the most wins of any netminder. He has 8. He's where Clark has been called into the Phantoms. One backing up position. Graziano's played a lot more, has had more ice time this year, and as such is ahead in a few of those categories as a result. But here's the statistic we're talking about here. Shots for per game. Lee Valley average 37 shots taken per game, but concede 57.5 shots per game. Half a shot ahead of the Solent Junior Devils in that one. Guildford average more shots than anybody else, and them and Peterborough top there. That's no surprise to anybody. One terrifying stat though to see: the Oxford Rising Stars have conceded 9 short-handed goals in the first half of the season. Peterborough have scored 11 short-handed goals so far this campaign. That is utterly baffling numbers. But remember, if you want to check out any of those bits and pieces, do of course head over to nhlstats.wordpress.com, check out Joe's site, hit the box scores. If you the box score section, it's got NHL Division 1, 1 North and South and 2 North and South. When you pick out the league bits and pieces, there is now an NHL Top 10 section. You can check out all of these stats for yourselves. And there we go then. Well, I was going to say South 2 didn't have any games, but we've gone through every game that's happened and had a look through all of the big numbers that we needed to look at across all 5 divisions of the NIHL so far, which means we throw open the door. Questions, comments, thoughts, feelings, anything anybody wants to chat about before we end tonight's stream. Let's have a chat about it here. Of course, if you're not unfamiliar with this one, once we've gone through all of our stuff in the NIHL, it's a free reign. Anything anybody wants to talk about. NIHL, Elite League, women's hockey. This is normally where Andrew Day would pipe up and chuck in a few of the women's fixtures, although I don't know off the top of my head how many there've been. Spengler Cup, NHL, anything anybody wants to chat about. Liam Kirk, of course, back from injury for the Eisbären Berlin, causing a bit of damage over there as well. Of course, not a million miles away from the NHL Winter Classic, the St. Louis Blues and the Chicago Cubs meeting at Wrigley Field. That should be a fantastic spectacle for the sport as ever. So it's just quickly clicking a few buttons. So we're just going to see if there's any other news. End of the second period in both the Spengler Cup and in the NIHL. Davos still leading Straubing by 1-0. Swindon leading Bristol by 1-0. Jake Bricknell not just breaking panes of glass, but breaking pitbull hearts at the moment into the bargain. No other big news. No other big news there. That's a very, very nice goal though from Callie Anderson as the video has just popped up there. No other huge news in the immediacy that I can see. And there's Andrew dipping in as we knew he would do from last Saturday, of course, a game that Andrew was DJing at from the WNIHL Elite League. Queen Bees defeating the Guildford Lightning by 8-0. A shutout for Mackenzie McNamara, and first Queen Bees goals into the bargain for Ellie Shaw and Yuk Ting Lau. So congratulations to those to the ladies there for that one. In Division 1 North from Saturday, a 3-3 tie between the Nottingham Vipers and the Solway Sharks ladies. The Sharks ladies coming back from 3-0 down to tie that game. Been a rough year for the Vipers. I'm off the top of my head, I don't feel like we talked about them winning an awful lot. Didn't go as well for the Solway Sharks ladies the next day in Division 1 North. They lose by 11-2 at the World's Most Versatile Arena against the Kingston Diamonds. But yeah, great to see Mackenzie McNamara getting a shot at there. No shot numbers available, of course, but otherwise we move on. Division 1 South then. Swindon Top Cats lose Certainly in women's hockey, the Southwest is blue. The Bristol Huskies winning by 2-1 at the Link Centre. Lily Endicott with the goal for the Top Cats. Mackenzie Kelly scoring both goals for the Bristol Huskies in that one. Great to see as well. Here's what I'd actually quite like, because you can't do it with the second teams because Pitbulls 2 are in South 2, Wildcats are in South 1. But wouldn't it be great to do like Hockey Day in Bristol or Swindon, where you do the Top Cats and the Huskies followed by the Wildcats and the Pitbulls? Like that'd be pretty awesome. I think if we could kind of find a way to wrangle that. Would be hard to do. Maybe do one in the early afternoon and one in the evening, and have like a public skate in between with the players. That would be a really, really fun idea though, like a Hockey Day in Bristol or a Hockey Day in Swindon, where you get you get as many of the teams out as possible, or you just put in a random. You do Wildcats 2 versus Oxford in the middle. Do Top Cats and Huskies, Wildcats 2 in Oxford, Wildcats and Pitbulls. Do it that way, or do that in Bristol 2 versus Cardiff Canucks or something like that. Like have a big day of hockey in one of those two cities. That feels like a marketing thing waiting to happen. No other big news at the moment. But yeah, questions, comments, thoughts, feelings, anything anybody wants to chat about at the moment. Like I say, I'm just massively excited about Spengler. It's like I say, it's one of my favourite tournaments of the year. The history of it is it's just so rich, and I just really enjoy it. I love the idea as well that a guy just like started it because his son was playing hockey, and it's just like, we need to find a way for people to come and play teams from like German-speaking countries who might think after the war we don't want to hang out with them, so let's make a hockey tournament so they can batter the differences out of each other. The other thing, of course, I'd forgotten, Spengler was played the whole competition was played outside until 1978. That's not that long ago. That's only 6 years older than I am, that this tournament has been played inside. The other thing as well, as I said, Mike mentioned it at the beginning, mentioned it on Twitter the other day, we mentioned it very briefly at the top of the show, the Buffalo Sabres offering out cookie cutters to the first however many people through the doors of their next game. What ridiculous ice hockey merchandise idea do we have? So we've got Buffalo Sabres cookie cutters. I personally want to see Swindon Wildcats cat bowls, or like Bristol Pitbulls like dog beds. Or something like that. That'd be pretty fun to see. I think you have to kind of think. You can't just say, oh, like a suit of armour for the Leeds Knights, because like no one's going to buy that. That's not merchandise. That's just a ridiculous idea. Nothing's going to happen. The Solway Sharks tartan might be one of the best ones. I think the issue is that proper tartan is really, really expensive, and so it'd be really it'd be fun to have, but like. If you wouldn't want to buy like something really, really expensive, because like I'm not Scottish, but it'd be like, oh, like a tie or like a pocket square or something like that would be really good. But even then, they're like really expensive, because proper tartan, the proper stuff, is really, really expensive. So for me, it's like, it's a great idea, but for me, good merchandise, good hockey merchandise is something like really, really affordable. Like, and I don't just mean like pucks, because like I say, I mean like everybody does pucks, right? Every club does them, and I want weird, obscure stuff. So I'm just trying to think of like what else we could do. I mean, Blindside, of course, Blindside trading cards are doing like trading cards for different teams. Would love to see the NIHL get on board with that as a league. So there's like a league set. That'd be pretty awesome. I'm surprised the Elite League haven't done that, to be honest. I should really get onto Blindside and try and get some in my because we could open some on stream. That'd be pretty awesome. I'm just trying to think of like other weird bits of hockey merchandise. Certainly more. I mean, I know they're sponsored by. I know obviously Morley Glass do like domestic windows and stuff like that. But I'm surprised that like for a team that's sponsored by a glass company, you can't buy like a Leeds Knights like pint mug. Like that would probably be a really, really good idea. I'd quite like that. But yeah, in terms of banners on the wall, the plan at the moment, like I say, commentary tomorrow for Guildford versus Manchester, and then I've got Guildford versus Fife on the 5th. I got myself confused. They're actually playing Cardiff on New Year's Day and Fife on the 5th, and I kept twisting them around in my head. So I've got Guildford versus Fife is my last confirmed game at the moment for Guildford. In between that, usually around New Year's Day, which is going to happen as we always do, is our state of the Hockey Nation address that comes out on New Year's Day. We kind of look back at the first half of the season, the calendar year of 2024, and throw up some sort of like big ideas. So, you know, where are we going, what needs fixing, what's good, what's not, kind of thing. And so that'll be coming like around New Year's Day, with the idea being that we can put that out during the day on New Year's Day, and then we'll all be back here because it'll be a Wednesday evening, and we'll do the What's Current stream at 8 o'clock, and then you can all tell me how terrible I am. And then, like I say, maybe that's the thing for the 1000th piece for BOTW, is like a big blockbuster piece of my crazy ideas that we need to do / get rid of. I won't do get rid of the anthem, because I've been saying it for the better part of 20 years and I just can't be bothered to have that argument with people, even though I do strongly believe we should not play the national anthem at domestic games. But like I say, like that idea that I'm starting to come around to the idea of, that we need to bin off the regular season championship, or a bunch of other things that we potentially could do. Maybe that's the best thing to do. Just kind of like go, like, where am I? Where have my thoughts evolved to? What could we do? What should we do to make British hockey better? Because I say it enough, and I think the thing that we sometimes forget is we kind of look at everything and the status quo is comfortable, right? We don't want to change things. And I agree that we shouldn't change things for the sake of changing them, but actually, if we could make things better, should we do something about it? And I think that's sometimes the thing that British hockey suffers from, because people see change as potentially not being not money making, and not making money because of the knife edge that our sport lives on for a lot of the time, means that people are scared to take those risks, because one risk too many, one mistake too many means out of existence. But actually, there are some things I think, and I kind of need to develop the idea more in my head, maybe kind of like write it out and then draft it and then write it out again and see what we do. But I seriously do think that, you know, when people talk about the fact, oh, you know, like the league title means so much, so we can't risk, bringing youngsters through. Well, then why don't we change our league format so that we can put emphasis on doing that, and then reward bits and pieces for it? Because ultimately, the NCAA, which is about to become an even bigger player, like college hockey in America is about to become an even bigger player in the development of NHL players, with the change now that players who've played in the Canadian Hockey League will be able to play in college, right? The national champion of all of collegiate hockey in America is decided on single game knockouts. The national tournament is all decided that way. And most of the conferences, the Big Ten, Atlantic Hockey, the NCHC, all of the big conferences in college hockey are all decided by short playoff rounds, so 2 or 3 games, into single game knockout tournaments, into the national tournament, which are single game knockout tournaments. But for some reason, we can't do that. The preference, of course, would be 3, 5, 7 game playoff series, like the Germans do, the Austrians do, the Poles do, the Swedes do, the Finns do. We're not going to have that because we don't have the ice time availability to do it. So do we maybe look at doing that instead? Playoffs. So we do playoffs as the league tournament format to give us 4 teams, and then we shoot out at the end. Best team in the regular season can have a trophy. Let's call it the they'll call it the Taggart Cup, like the President's Trophy, the Taggart Trophy, right? Best team in the regular season in the NHL gets a trophy. Congrats for doing really well for this beginning bit. Give them something, right? And then Ken gets a big legacy that exists in senior hockey. But why don't we move to that? That could be an idea. And I'm not saying this is brilliantly formed. I'm sort of forming it out loud as we're talking, but it could be a thing. It really could be a thing. And it could even be a thing for the Elite League, though they won't like that. The Elite League, which has proven itself to be very much in favour of the status quo, just look at the Challenge Cup when it comes to not altering things they should alter, because ultimately the one thing the NIHL National does massively better than the Elite League is the cup competition is vastly better run. Hugely better run, because it makes more, because the format they come up with makes much more sense. But ultimately, British hockey can fix a bunch of these things and can do things, or at least, it maybe not necessarily fix. Fix might be the wrong word, but it can change. If you're in charge of your own stuff, change your stuff if it doesn't work. But like I say, the big disincentive of doing that is that sometimes the risk, what's the reward for the risk? What's the reward for the risk becomes the big issue there. And people will say, having having the league title effectively decided on one game shootouts, devalues the league. 2018, the Basingstoke Bison won the league title in the 5th tiebreaker because they ended up, by good fortune, being in a league with an odd number of teams and played Cardiff on the last day of the season, who had 2 points the entire campaign. And all Basingstoke needed to do was win against a team that had again won 0 games the entire season. Like, it literally came down to a single game shootout. Because it can happen if you have a league format, or it can happen like this. What you'd end up being able to do is probably sell out Coventry because you're literally going to see the league title one, rather than looking at it as the playoffs and giving it as sort of weird trophy that kind of means the same but doesn't. That could be an idea. I'm feeling dangerous. I've not even had a drink tonight either. Right, last call, because we're heading towards 9:30. I've got a cold Heineken Zero in the fridge that I'm wanting to crack open. Shots on goal for the second period, then 26 on Napier for a total of 45 through 40 minutes. Shot counting is fun there, and 10 on Jordan on Rennie Marr, for 26. Yeah, am I mad? Is the short answer, and that's the question we can sort of leave. We can leave hanging out in the air there for the moment. Tell me what you think. If you're watching this on the catch up, drop me a tweet afterwards and see what you think. I need to sit down and kind of elaborate this out, I think, and kind of work this out, rather than doing what I'm doing now, which is just letting the gears turn in my brain and just spew it out onto YouTube. But yeah, tons of good hockey. Massively looking forward to the weekend as well. Like I say, I think MK Peterborough is going to be a lot of fun. Guildford Peterborough on Sunday in South 2. Huge implications for the title as well. Obviously a little quieter in Division 1 and Division 2 over the Christmas period. National Division very much taking centre stage alongside the Elite alongside the Elite League, and the game of who will Fife call into the lineup next. Congratulations to Rhys Edwards and Owen Dell on their Elite League debuts. I don't think they saw coming. Surprise, you're in the Elite League now. Davos 2 goals to 0 up on Straubing now. Adam Tambellini with the hosts second of the night. If Davos can hold on, that should I think, given that I don't think Straubing are going to beat Team Canada, that should put Davos through as second place in their group of 3. But yeah, last call. Questions, comments, thoughts, feelings, anything anybody else wants to chuck in. A third goal for Davos now. Tino Kessler making it 3-0 with just under 8 minutes to go, with 8:07 left on the clock there. I think that one is going to do that one, as the third period has now started in Bristol. 1-0 Swindon as we are about to head off the air. Like I say, any more for any more? I'm just going to have a quick drink because my throat's feeling a bit funny. Oh. Yes, actual water. It is water, I promise. I promise it's just water, even though it's the Christmas period. We'll leave it there then, folks. As I think, as everyone's, like I say, a few of our regulars, obviously down in Bristol watching the game there. So we will. So me and the Dragonzord up above me. We'll call it there. Bannersonthewall.wordpress.com, your #1 source for all things related to the NIHL. Of course, join me on my journey through British hockey in our Banners on the Road series. In-depth looks at all of the games I go to across the entirety of the season. You can also check out our Hockey Story series. Working on some new pieces at the moment. Everything's kind of in like that pre-production stage. But long-form pieces of content, both either written or audio-visual. We go from the 19th century to the present day, behind the Iron Curtain, into World War II and beyond. The chats with the movers and shakers of British and world hockey, as well as historical look backs. And we go into sort of thematic bits and pieces. We've talked about retirement. We've talked about long-term friendships. We talked about the dynamics between goalies. We talked about what it's like to run teams, to create teams from scratch over all of that time as well. You've got the old BOTW podcast back catalogue there, as well as Dice Hockey, our free to download game. All of that wonderful stuff is over on the website. That's bannersonthewall.wordpress.com. Facebook.com/bannersonthewall. If you like getting your news for your Facebook feed, head over, hit the like button on there. All of the links for bits and pieces, everything that goes on the website, and the links for the streams will come through there too. Twitter, X, whatever you choose to call it, is @BannersOTW, the best place to keep up with me and my rolling dialogue of analysis on British and world hockey. Blue Sky, search for Banners on the Wall. It's bannersonthewall.bsky.social. As I can see that Davos have got a 4th goal now. That game is pretty much to bed. Yannick Freiner with the 4th for the hosts in that one. Otherwise, the other thing to check out is our virtual busking hat over at buymeacoffee.com/BOTW. Never going behind the paywall, but obviously it costs to do bits and pieces. And if you like the content that BOTW gives you and you like to support in a small way, then please do head over to buymeacoffee.com/BOTW. Chuck a few quid in the hat. If you can't contribute financially, please don't. Don't give me your money if you can't afford to. But if you can stick something on social media, share a piece out, share the links, whatever it is, it's massively appreciated. Particularly sharing out stuff on the YouTube channel. Like, the algorithms really, really are a thing. We are the nichest of the niche. And, getting, more likes and more shares and stuff like that does actually genuinely help, because it kind of pushes us into other people's feeds. The more people who can come join the party, the best thing it is. But of course, here on the YouTube channel, if you haven't already, all of those links for everything are down there in the description. And if you're going to look at the description, swing by the subscribe button, hit on that, keep the algorithm hamster fat, happy and fed. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, all those good bits and pieces. Check out all the videos that are there. And of course, well, it's Friday today, but you can join us for our regular Wednesday roundup of all things from across the National Ice Hockey League structure. 5 divisions, every game looked at from top to bottom, as well as your views, all the action, all the news is Wednesday nights. The BOTW What's Current stream, the first, best and only live show that covers everything from across the NIHL. Wednesday, 8 PM, we are back on New Year's Day to have a look at, Swindon versus Bristol will be going on, so we'll have a look at that. We'll have winners of the Spengler Cup, we'll have news from the World Juniors, we'll have another weekend's worth of NIHL action from the National Division, plenty to talk about. We will see you here next Wednesday night at 8 PM. Fantastic to be with you all again. Thank you for joining us on outside of our usual schedule. But hey, we had one on a Friday where I hadn't, and it wasn't because I poisoned myself by mistake. Isn't that good? So I think the only thing left to do is to sign off the last What's Current stream of 2024 by saying thank you very much for your support over the last 12 months. I get to do a lot of really, really cool things as a result of the support that you guys give me. And it's really, really cool. And thank you very much for it. Let's roll into 2025. We ain't stopping now. There's plenty more to come. Enjoy your hockey where you find it this weekend. Be happy. And like I said, particularly this time of year, it can be pretty tough. So please, wherever you are, if you can't be happy, then please do be safe. Genuinely. As my friend Scotty Watts would say, take care of yourself and somebody else. For bannersonthewall.wordpress.com, this is Anthony Russell saying stay safe. And so long until next time, I will see you all either this weekend in Guildford, if you happen to be swinging by, or I will see you in 2025. Have a good weekend, everybody. Take care of yourselves.